Greetings, sacred beings. Welcome to Sacred HERstory podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Natasia. Today, for our Sacred HERstory guest speaker, we have this incredible woman, Laura Richards, who is a podcaster, speaker, author, and coach dedicated to empowering women in midlife who are healing from a relationship with the nice guy through her global podcast, That's Where I'm At, and her best-selling book, Married to a quote unquote nice guy, Getting Over Narcissistic Abuse. Laura shared her personal journey of recovery from a 32-year marriage to a narcissist. Whew. And Laura's mission is simple to shine a light on narcissistic abuse and let women know they are never alone and that healing is always possible. Welcome, Laura. Thank you
I'm,
for connecting.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Me too. Wow, oh, wow. 32 years in
Yeah,
a narcissistic relationship. And
yeah,
I like how you quote nice guy.
of course.
Right. Let's talk about that. The nice guy.
Oh gosh, everybody thought he was so nice. And so that's part of the confusion, right? If you've ever been in any kind of emotionally, psychologically abusive relationship, your at-home life is different than your out in public life. And so everyone thought he was such a nice guy. And so when I was writing my book, I'm like, oh, that's it. That's the term. And so many people that I know say that too, that everybody said he's such a nice guy. And so everybody would say, like, oh my gosh, your husband is so nice. I just love him. And I'd be like so confused, because he would, quote unquote, get mad at me because everybody likes me but you. Everybody thinks I'm so great except you. And I would be so confused. That's part of the confusion, right? I mean, that's their whole plan is keep you confused and in chaos and off balance so that you don't question them and you really can't even believe anything you're thinking anymore. So that's why I wanted, so many people resonate with that statement. That's why I wanted to use that term, because so many people resonate with that. Because the person I was married to was a covert narcissist, so one way at home, one way out in public. So it's not like a malignant narcissist where they're like, yelling and screaming and saying like, "I'm the best in the world," and we see that. Oftentimes we see that in the movies or and political figures and stuff like that. And so people are like, what do you mean he's a narcissist? Um, because he's so nice. Well, the covert kind, one way at home, one way out in public. And so it was hard for me to reconcile. That's for sure. And listen, I did not know, and we can totally talk about this. I did not know anything about narcissistic abuse until after I was divorced. I didn't start unraveling it until after.
You know what? I feel like that's usually the case. Like
Yeah.
you don't really know you're in that narcissistic relationship until you're outside of it and way outside of it after a year or
Yeah.
two.
When you actually start healing, your brain says, well, here's some information, because your brain starts to heal once you leave abuse. But I had heard about gaslighting. And so
Mm.
I actually said to him, I think you're gaslighting me. And he said, he totally gaslit me into believing that he was not. When I think back, I'm like, oh, Laura, poor
Oh
girl.
my goodness.
No. And, I just didn't know.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? There's like some definitions I really want to
Yeah,
define.
of
So,
course.
what is your definition of a narcissist?
So this is not from like when if they were going to get diagnosed, which they never will go get diagnosed. And really, who cares if they're diagnosed? I'll tell you, any of this information we give you today doesn't matter if they have a diagnosis or if you can do a checklist. None of this matters. They have a high need of control, and
Mhm.
they also have a very they have a lack of empathy. So those are the basics. Those are the basics. You're going to see that high need for control. And it's so funny because he would always say, I was so controlling. So what you see with this lack of empathy is they don't care about you. And, I've talked to women who are like, I was deathly sick. And he's still like, are you getting up to make dinner? These kinds of things. One of the things that like blew our marriage up was my mom passed away. And I started to see not only was he so like had lacked empathy, but he was really apathetic. Like he really did not care. He went through the motions. I think they go through the motions of this is what I'm supposed to do. And then after a few months, he was like, I don't understand why you're still sad. Like, I don't get it. Well, guess what? I'm still sad. It's been years, It's like, well, because some of us have a heart. And so it's really that. And I know women often ask me, well, what's the checklist? You don't need it. You don't need it. We want to see how are you being treated in your relationship? Do you have a partnership? Or do you feel loved? When you bring up a concern, does he just flip it around and blame you? Because that's a tactic. And that's what I got sick of. I didn't have to know if he was a narcissist. He didn't never had to hit me. I just knew if I have to go one more day like this, I can't. I won't be able to make it.
Well, you went 32 years.
Yeah.
Like that. I can understand you like
Listen, I
one
lived
day.
off I lived off of hope and breadcrumbs. And that's all I could do. When you're in a trauma bond, which is your abuser is also the one who's soothing you and loving you. It's not hard to stay because unless you're being hit, but even women who are hit still stay because the abuser is apologizing and all that. So I didn't have to be hit. I just was so brainwashed. And I also believe that if I got married it was forever, and so I wasn't in a hurry to leave. I sure wasn't going to leave when he like I found out about a lie. I'd be like, well, we can work this out. Like, I'll just show them the PowerPoint on how you're not supposed to lie. Like lying is bad. You know,
Yeah.
I can laugh now because I mean, it's so I just really held on to hope. And listen, as women, I think
Mhm.
we are that way. We're hopeful. Well, you don't, I think, I don't know how you are, but you don't go into relationships, and many of us don't go into relationships going, okay, well, this will just be like a 5 minute, or no, we go in a lot of times with a commitment, and especially getting married. I was like, this is it. This is my forever. And, so that kept me in longer than it needed to.
Yeah. Wow. No, and you know what? You said so many great things too, the trauma bond.
Yeah.
The fact of, when you're in a relationship, you're not just typically gonna throw it away.
Right.
You're
Hmm.
gonna put the effort, you're gonna give it a chance, you're gonna be like,
Right.
okay, let's work on this. And then even still, like you were saying, like in a narcissistic relationship, they'll act right. They act right.
Exactly. Yes.
They'll be nice, they'll do
Hmm.
and say the things you want to hear, and then it starts flipping again. Right.
Exactly. And it's so subtle. This is the thing, it's the boiling frog syndrome. The frog doesn't know it's being boiled in the water because
Mhm.
the water is being turned up. So you don't realize what's going on because it's so subtle. You are being manipulated slowly, and then you start accommodating yourself. You start changing and going like, "Oh, that was odd," or "Oh, that's one of their quirks," or stuff like that. And I don't know how many times I had, talks with him about this, that, or the other. And it would either get flipped around onto me because that is one of their tactics. It's called Darvo, where they deny, they attack, and they reverse it. They reverse the victim and offender. And by the end, I was apologizing and he was the one who felt attacked. And it's like, gosh. But I have this in my journals. I would announce, oh, this is the part of the fight where you blame me for everything. And I
Mhm.
used to say that out loud, but see, if we don't have information, what good did that do me? Nothing. It didn't do anything. And if you have someone who's abusive, all they're going to do is say like, yeah, that worked. That's the way they're going to think. Yeah, that worked. That manipulation tactic worked, or whatever. And there's self-aware narcissists on the internet that I follow, and they say like if my partner was figuring out what was going on, I'd change the game. It's like, oh, it's so exhausting, people. I know.
Wow. And the awareness that they know that they're doing this.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and they do know that they're doing it because they do not abuse everyone. They only abuse who they want to abuse. So, they don't go to work necessarily. If we're talking about a covert narcissist, they're doing the abusing at home, or behind closed doors, subtly, like in the car or whatever. They're not doing it. They're not going to work and abusing their boss. They're not abusing the waitress. In fact, the waitress thinks they're the greatest person ever. They're not going to church and abusing anybody there. They're only abusing who they want to abuse. So they very much know what they're doing. And I think thinking that maybe he didn't know, or living off of like, oh, I know his childhood trauma, so I use that as an excuse. And maybe he didn't know how to deal with certain things because of whatever his childhood trauma was. Okay, yeah, but we can hold two things at the same time. Yes, he has a childhood trauma. Feel free to go to therapy, you ding dong. And then the other one is you really don't have to abuse people. You really don't. And so I can hold space for that 6-year-old little boy who needed his mommy's love, but instead, she wouldn't give it, right? And so, but I don't hold space, and I don't care about the adult man who said, you know what, I'm going to abuse people instead of getting help. And that to me was a choice. And it is a choice. It is there. These are choices they're making. So I don't even call them monsters, because every day they're making choices. They're fully making choices.
Yeah. Well, I think something that was powerful that you just said was the fact of I can hold space for the 6-year-old boy,
Yeah.
but the man, there's some, come on, there's some
Yeah.
standards.
It and
Yeah.
I didn't understand that at first. I thought I had to only hold space or only have that knowledge of one thing at a time. And so I learned to, I learned as I was healing that you can hold this part, like I hate him and I feel bad for him. I hate him and I love him. I hate him and I miss him. Those
Mm.
things you can hold, but that doesn't mean you have to act. Just because he was a 6-year-old little boy who needed his mommy's love, this is not my problem anymore. Like, you're an adult, like, go deal with your shit. Like, that's just the end of the story. Not Don't go around abusing people, lying to people, things like that. We all have choices to make in this world. Um, and I just that I just don't hold I don't have any empathy for that, for him in that place. I don't, as an adult.
Yeah. And this is called healthy boundaries, right?
Exactly.
It's called self-love,
Yeah.
right? Being able to honor our own truth, what it is, where our no, this ain't gonna fly by,
Yes,
right?
exactly. And that was the biggest lesson I had to learn, was, well, loving myself. Because when I walked out of my marriage, I mean, he used to tell me how much I was a terrible person and all this. And then I would like be in the world with like my friends, and I would be like, people seem to like me and they seem to say things that say like that I'm a decent person, and I feel like I'm a decent person. Like, I did a lot of introspection. I was in a lot of therapy, because they end up, driving you crazy. And that's how I felt. I felt completely insane. Especially because of the gaslighting. That's the whole point, is they want you to not trust yourself. And I just didn't know what to even believe was right or wrong or anything without his help, right? Without him telling me what was good or bad. And all I ever heard was how terrible I was. So I went to therapy to heal and say, like, I'm going to figure out if I like myself, like all the things, right? I mean, I had to figure it all out. Yeah, amazing. I'm not, once I left abuse, anger, you almost will never see anger in me unless, well, anger is a good tool in our body to know that there's something wrong. So yes, I get angry at whatever, something that's going on in the world or something, but I don't walk around every day just angry at the world like I used to, because I was being poked like a bear. And the other thing is the boundaries. You can't set boundaries unless you work on loving yourself. And if we have never been taught that, how to love ourselves, if we, maybe our home wasn't like our home life wasn't like that, maybe then our marriage home wasn't like that, then man, that's the work you need to do. That's really, and those will go hand in hand, learning how to set boundaries. Um, Yeah, that's for sure. And I had started setting some boundaries before we got divorced, and I think that's one of the reasons why he was like, "Oh, this one's done. Got to go get another
Mm.
one who doesn't know my game."
Wow. Wow. I love how you can laugh about all this.
I know. I've done a
You know,
lot.
because
I've
it's
done a
like, I'm
lot of
so done.
healing. I've done a lot of healing, Jennifer.
I can feel it. I can see it. You're just so radiant.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And question, because we're talking about loving yourself.
Yeah.
When you went into the relationship, did you love yourself? Were you taught how to
Mm,
love yourself?
no, not really.
Mhm.
I felt like I'm the oldest, I'm parentified. I don't feel like I was really understood. I was told I was too much a lot of the times. And so no, I was like searching for any, and really it's a boy because we were we were so young when we got married, any boy that would love me. Because if I was loved, that means I was okay, and that means I
Mhm.
was complete and whole and all those things that sometimes we're societalized to believe. That if somebody loves you, it's that external validation, right? Waiting for the external validation for me from a boy. And
Mhm.
so I didn't have that internal validation of being able to just look in the mirror and say like you're doing great today or you look beautiful, and just being okay with just me, like being
Mhm.
okay. And no, I wasn't taught that. That wasn't modeled to me. um yeah, and really society, but that society, we're not taught as women all the time to love ourselves. We're taught like,
Mhm.
here's all the makeup you need to cover up all the flaws so that you can make sure somebody loves you. And there's nothing wrong with makeup. I have makeup on. There's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is it's a lot of promoting of be somebody different so that you can be loved. And so I didn't figure out who I was until 55. So I always say this, I've only been alive 3.5 years. That's what I say.
Oh
'Cause
my God. After
this
your
is this
divorce.
has been this version of me for 3.5 years.
Wow. Wow. A lot of what you said definitely resonate, a
Yeah,
lot of, as young girls, as, we're not taught what does it look like to love yourself? And
right.
here we're taught, growing up, we got to be a certain way. I know I was kind of taught, you're taught to be seen, not heard.
Yes.
you know, I
Yes.
was always like, why are you so loud? And like,
Oh my gosh. There's
because
no
I'm
there
happy.
Listen, there is a reason I have a microphone because no one wanted me to talk ever. And I'm like, I was literally like doing some stuff for my podcast. And I texted my coach, who is also the person who runs my podcast. And I said, did I literally start a podcast because nobody would listen to me? And she's like, yeah, yes, for sure. I'm like, I mean, this is the thing. And this is what I tell women, like when I'm working with women, women in my groups or on social media who are like, I'm trying to get back to myself. Listen, we don't want to get back anywhere. We need to, now we're not even rebuilding. We are uncovering from the rubble who's under there. What did we love before the world told us not to do it, not to be as, they told us you have to be this way. And maybe
Mhm.
were with a toxic partner who said you have to be this way, and we said okay, we will, as long as you love me, and we'll do it. And so I'm still learning, what do I like, what don't I like. And I was in therapy when I first got divorced, and I said, one of my friends asked me to go hiking, and I started crying because that was a thing my ex liked to do, was go hiking. So I said, I don't even know if I want to go hiking. I don't even know if I like it. And she said, okay, well, go hiking and see if you like it. It's like, oh, what an idea. Because we really feel like we don't know who we are, right? But this is the other thing too. I was 55. Look, every decade of life is something new, right? Anyway, like we're allowed to um I don't know, discover something new in each decade, like things we want to do and not do, and our life changes. So it's been fun. And when people say, and I said it too, they say like, I want to get back. I always say, no, go forward, go forward. Just start unraveling, like digging through the rubble to see who's under there and see what
Mhm.
comes up. Might not be anything to me. I never would have thought a podcast, never in a million years. Podcast, a book. This is what I'm doing now. I talk about it constantly. Never would I thought I would be doing this. So
And here you
you
are,
never know. You never know what's going to happen.
doing something new,
Trying
trying something
something
new,
new.
and just going for it,
It's
right?
wild. It's wild, but it's so fun.
Wow, wow, just so inspiring.
Mm.
And, when you say unravel, for me, what comes through is remembering,
Okay.
remembering who that little girl before
Yes.
everyone started saying no,
Yes,
before society
exactly.
started saying you got to be this way, before the world is like, no, this is what is acceptable, and you're not in here, so you're not,
Yes, exactly.
so.
Yes, it's so true. And how many of us maybe changed a dream to accommodate, and then this is the other thing we have to remember. When people around you tell you you shouldn't do something, don't necessarily listen because a lot of times it's from their own comfort level. Because I have friends, okay, so I had quite a few people who actually said, "Oh my gosh, no, do not do a podcast. You shouldn't talk about it. You shouldn't call it abuse. You shouldn't talk about your husband that way or your ex-husband." And I'm like, "What? I don't know. I didn't understand that." And then I had other people saying, "Wow, I could never do that." And I'm like, "You don't have to. No one's forcing you. Like I will do it for you. I will be the voice for the voiceless. Like if you don't want to, you are more than welcome to text me and say like I could never do what you're doing and but I will be your voice, but nobody's forcing you to do it." And you have to weed through their comfort level because they might not want to pick up a microphone, but I do. And so we're not all the same in this world, Some of us will do it for you.
Right, right. And it's just honoring your truth, right?
Yes,
Whereas
exactly.
like when you're in a narcissistic relationship, it's like, who is myself?
You don't even know. You really don't. And that was the thing too, was at the end. Well, it was really all the time. Like I have notebooks full of I love journaling. Journaling is like it's just I love it because it really gets all those thoughts out of your head. And you can like strategize, you can dream for your future, you can do so many things. Journaling is very helpful for your mental health. So I remember saying, oh, these are the dreams that I have. And people around me, especially my ex, would be like, no, you can't have that dream. And so I didn't understand, like when I would see my friends and they would be like, I'm going to do this. And I'd be like, I don't understand. How are you allowed to do that? Because I was never allowed to do anything. And if you've ever been in abuse, you know that word allowed. It's very true. You aren't allowed to do hardly anything. And so by the end, I was very quiet and I didn't even want to be alive, really. I was very quiet. I just was like, I'll just sit here as I tried to be as quiet as possible because he didn't like it when I had an opinion or I talked or I said something or um but then they say, "Well, you're kind of a dud. You used to be so fun." It's like you turned me into this like yeah, in full survival.
Right. That's survival. That's a big
Yeah,
thing.
right, exactly. Yeah, there's that fight or flight, and then there's also freeze and fawn. And fawning is when you just don't do anything. You don't do
Mhm.
anything, just you're just being really careful about what you say and do. So that
And that's how
way
you behave.
yeah, and you're hoping that'll be enough so that they won't get mad at you or that they'll like you more or whatever, but the goalpost is always moved. It's never going to be right because I was a shell of a human and it still wasn't enough. He was like, "You're no fun. I'm going to go off and do something else." And then he did. And it's like, okay, I don't, so that, that reminder of that, women in midlife, we probably are thinking, oh my gosh, is it too late? It's like, it's not too late. Like if you're not dead, you're not done. Just keep going. And I feel like that's how I'm running is through this world is like a dog that somebody opened the gate and I'm running as fast as I can because I couldn't do so many things. I wasn't allowed to dream or so many things. I just couldn't do things. And so, and now I can just do whatever I want. And I'm learning lots of things. Learning, there's so many things to try.
That's amazing. What are some things that you want to do? I'm curious that you
Well,
want to
I
do.
I just I want to keep doing my podcast. So I love doing that. Love, talking to women. I talk about all kinds of abuse and grief and recovery. We talk about tons of things like that. So I just enjoy doing that. And I'm really hoping to create some women's events like in person. We've all gotten used to doing things on Zoom, which is great. But I want to start now that we're maybe far enough removed from the pandemic that it's time to like start being with each other again. And so, maybe hosting some in-person retreats and conferences for women.
Oh, that
That's
would
what
be
that's my
incredible.
goal. Yeah.
It will happen. I'll be there.
Okay, good.
I'll be
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I think we need that in-person touch. I know we all we're not normal anymore the way we used to be. But in 2019, everything kind of shifted in 2020. So it's time to start like shifting things where we're together again and being able to hug each other and stuff like that. It's time to do that. We need
Yeah.
that connection.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I go, behind the computer hiding. But
I
I
know.
think also it kind of got comfortable just being
Oh,
at
believe me, it's
home and
very comfortable. I'm an introvert at heart, and so love every second of it. Love doing this work behind my computer screen. Um, and because I don't mind being by, on my own. I don't mind that. But every once in a while, I'm like, I need to go do something. I'm texting my friends. Let's go do anything. I don't care what it is. Just be together. And you need that laughter. And that's what helps you heal is, all the good chemicals back in your brain, especially when you're sitting thinking about all the terrible things maybe that happened to you, right? We need the good chemicals back in our brain. So moving our body and laughing and watching a funny movie to do that laughter and anything. The good like breathing, like breath work and meditation, all the things. Just there's tons of stuff out there. You can find it. How to get the good chemicals back in my brain. That all the natural ways because we don't want to always go to, wine and stuff because that won't always get us where we want to go. So we got to fix our brain. We can rebuild our brain, thank God. Our
Mhm.
brain is pliable enough that we can rebuild it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Got to rebuild those endorphins.
That's right. That's right.
Natural endorphins, right?
Yep. Of
Can we go back to like when you were talking about
course.
therapy, right? So
Hmm.
what were the biggest takeaways when you were going to therapy that you can give to those who are listening and maybe in the situation in
Hmm.
a narcissistic relationship?
Well, when you're in it, okay, so this is the best thing to do is always go to trauma-informed therapy if you feel like you are in abuse or if you understand that you were in abuse. Okay, you can't just go to regular therapy because sometimes the therapist who is not trauma informed will try to say things like, look at it from their point of view and what is your responsibility for ending the marriage. I was in a group like that where I was like, nope, this isn't right, because we don't do introspection and say like, how could I have caused this divorce? No, we're saving ourselves from abuse. Okay, so we don't look at it in the same way. So you have to be very careful with that. I have tons of resources on my website for that. So you get the right therapist, and the things you're going to be working on, which I think are important, are going to be the things like starting to rebuild your self-confidence and journaling about, not necessarily always about what happened, but unraveling like they said I'm this, but I'm really that. So we're doing a lot of self-talk. And when you are in with a therapist, you have a safe place to say, I hate him and these are all the horrible feelings that are coming up for me, things like that. and you have somebody who's safe with you, that you can say those things to, and they don't go, oh God, you can't say that. That's terrible. Like, that's not what we want. And we also don't want anyone who is going to recommend reconciling or
Mm,
staying friends or trying to reach out. Like, we do not want that, because that will keep you in the trauma bond longer. So that's why you have to get the right kind of therapist. And really, if you are in therapy and you go, that doesn't seem right, you're allowed to just no, don't go back. You're allowed to do that. People think like, oh, they'll get their feelings hurt. Who cares? This part of setting boundaries. It's like you don't have to go back. But those are the biggest things, is like self-confidence, self-love, boundaries,
mm,
all that, and unraveling. So once I had a name for my pain, once I understood narcissistic abuse, I'm like, oh, so then I started talking about it, and I'm like, okay, this is what they do. A, B, C. This is the game plan. This is what they do. And now we can see it. And that's why I share, because if you're in it, if you're listening to this and you hear things, it's like, I can tell you what's going to happen next, and what they're going to do next, and how they're not going to change, and the things they're going to say to you, and how they, everything's probably your fault. That everything was my fault. And he is telling everyone that I gave up on the marriage. Correct. Yes, but he forgets the part where he was abusing me. You know what I mean? Like those kinds
yeah.
of things. So we learn that too. We learn that confidence to be like, I don't care what he's saying. Doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. Cause I have people DM me all the time. He's saying this about me. Who cares? Let him say it. Like, what does it matter? Number one, why are you talking to him? How do you know he's saying that? You shouldn't know. You
Let
should
them
not
talk.
know.
Oh my God. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing those things.
Mhm.
With your coaching, did you ever think that you would ever be a coach? Was that something that you dreamed of doing, helping other women?
You,
Curious.
you know, I love talking to people, and I love listening. And if I learn something, then I love sharing it with people. So I think it was a natural step, because I did not plan on doing this at all. This was not my plan. And I just kept getting call after call saying like, well, will you, like, do you do coaching? Can I talk to you? And so that's something that I love doing, because I can help people like kind of navigate what's going on, what's happening, what they're going through, like what the narcissist is doing, or what the next step is, and stuff like that. So, and then if it gets into more divorce stuff, I have people who can, walk alongside you with divorce coaching and things like that. So, but no, never thought I would be doing.
What was your dream as a little girl? Did you have any?
Yes, I was going to be a teacher, and then and I did get a teaching degree, but I didn't teach, and I had kids right away. And when I was in school, I thought that, okay, so when I was in school, you had to choose special education as a profession. Like, now in schools, everybody's everywhere. Like all the kids with special needs are everywhere.
Yeah.
And I always thought, oh, I could never do that. And then our third child was born with special needs. You make plan and God laughs, you know. And and so not only did I need to learn how to be a mom of a child with special needs, I then went back to school to become a speech therapist. So I actually did that for 15 years. I went back to school. Yeah. So I have a lot of knowledge of the brain and how, yes, we can heal. We can't, even though they destroyed our brain, we can heal. And yeah, so I went back to school. I became a speech therapist. I did that in the school district for a lot of years, helping kids like my son. And so I did that until 2020. And then I kind of been, man, these last years, the pandemic, and my mom died, our sister-in-law died. Um, it's just been a wild ride. We got divorced. It's been a lot of trauma, one right after the
Yeah.
other. So not only the divorce, but a lot of family trauma, and, kind of unraveling all that. Still always have things to heal, which it's life, right? That's life. You can't, you're not just going to coast. Things are going to come up. That's why having the tools in your toolbox is a good thing to do.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
That is a lot.
Sorry. Yes, it is.
No,
But you know
and
what?
yeah,
It's okay. I mean,
thank
it's
you.
life. I mean, we all went through a trauma when we went into the pandemic. We all have a shared trauma. Um, so it's a matter of how we're dealing with everything around us. And it's just a lot. But that's okay. That's okay. It's really just formed my life and
Mhm.
yeah, you just I don't know. I just take it one day at a time. And then I sometimes I fall down. Like, like healing isn't linear. It's like a big
Yeah,
squiggly mess and you just keep going.
yeah. Well, thank you and condolences,
Thank you.
and you're you showing up here and sharing all this and just being really real and authentic. I mean, I think that's the big part,
Mm,
and I hope
yeah.
those who are watching or listening sees that, like, and hear how you even mention, like, well, one day at a time, and some days,
Yes,
it's like
exactly.
you're crawling yourself out of bed, and
Hmm. That's
you just need
exactly
to.
it. Yeah, there were days where I would just get out of bed and go to the bathroom and be like, "Hey, great job getting out of bed." You have to talk to yourself because we can really rewire stuff. And we can't just stay in our head all the time. And our brain doesn't always know the difference. And so just being able to like look in the mirror and say, like, great job getting out of bed, like you don't need to do much. But grief, that's why I had such a hard time when my mom passed away. Well, it was my mom, so of course that was sad. But then with my ex, the one of the reasons why I went to therapy, if you can believe this, he thought I was grieving too long. And I agreed with him because I had never lost anyone that close to me. Because even my grandparents, they were kind of removed. So I didn't really, it wasn't like as big of a loss. My mom was like, the biggest loss that we had in the family. And it was true. I thought I had been grieving too long too. I agreed with him, but then also I was in abuse. Of course I agreed with him. I had to agree with him. And when I went to therapy, I was like, "Oh, no, I don't have to be I don't have to stop grieving anytime." I
Wow.
have met people who are like, they'll get a tear in their eye and their mom's been gone 20 years. And it's like, did you know that's okay? You like when you have a soft heart, that's the thing. It's like not a bad thing. The goal is never to stop crying. The goal is to, when you are triggered, to have the tools to deal with it.
Oh, thank you. It's
Hmm.
like we have to give ourselves permission.
Yes.
And we like that whole word, that what you mentioned earlier about being allowed to
Yes.
do things, right?
Right.
Versus is like, all right, well, you can't allow me to do nothing.
Right.
You know?
It
And then,
just, gosh, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it's just crazy to think about things that yeah, the things that we thought, but listen, when you're in abuse or you're in survival mode of any kind, your brain is protecting you. So when I think back, and that's why I kind of laugh about it, because I think back, I'm like, oh, poor Laura. She just didn't know any better. I mean, I didn't know any better. And so that's why I keep talking to people to say, like, do you know you're allowed to cry about this? Do you know you're allowed to be sad? Some people message me and they're like, yeah, it's been a couple of months and I'm still having a hard time. A couple of months? Like someone's been actively lying to you, the person you married. You're allowed to be upset for a lot longer than a couple of months.
mm,
But I think in society, we sometimes don't see the way the sausage is made, right? We only
yeah,
see like, here comes our friend out of their grieving, whatever, their grieving time. And they're like, I'm doing great. No, my gosh, I will start crying on a dime for certain things. And it's because I have a soft heart. I don't care. That's okay with me. I'm okay with that.
I love that. I love that you just give yourself permission. This is who
Yeah.
I am. I
Yeah.
need this space, and this is how I'm going to respond. Period.
Right.
You
And
know,
crying is a regulator. Crying is actually, it's regulating your nervous system. And I was talking to a friend about this and she goes, man, I've been regulating a lot. I'm like, you obviously need some good cries in there.
right? Yes.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I love all this because, there's a big thing getting from all this is, I mean, outside after you after that relationship end, there's a whole lot of healing,
Oh,
but also giving yourself
yeah.
the permission. And I love how you differentiated being in that
Mhm.
situation and then being out of it. There's your mindset are in like two very different places,
Oh,
which
yeah.
I think for me, like being out of it for so long, like I would
Yeah.
not tolerate anything less,
Right.
like, oh,
Right.
bye.
I
Thank you
know.
next. I'll be singing that Ariana Grande song. Thank you
Yes. Yeah.
next. Right.
Yes.
But
No,
being in
seriously.
it, yeah,
Mhm.
like with, because I've been in a situation like that too.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was so different. And then the fear behind it, the survival behind it.
Yes, exactly. You're right. Yeah,
So,
and it's amazing the mindset difference. And so I still have women who talk about like I still don't know what I like to eat or what I want to drink or different things like that. And I think, well, that's because we've been taught for so long to do whatever he wanted. And I use it's very heteronormative how I speak, but it's we've been taught like to do whatever he wanted to keep the peace. And so all I'm telling you is you just have to do it. So
mhm.
it's a trauma response, sort of a leftover trauma response, like to not have pictures on your wall, to have blank walls in your new home because you're scared to choose the wrong thing. Guess what happens when you choose the wrong thing? You take it back to the store and no one yells at you. I mean, I did a video because one of the things my ex would tell me is I was lazy for getting back into bed to drink a cup of coffee. Guess what I do every single day? I get back in bed and drink a cup of coffee. I do it every single day. And I'm like, F you. And so I actually did a video because I I took the coffee and I like sat it on I make like a little hole, and I put the coffee in there, the coffee cup. Well, guess what? I spilled it. Oh no. What could happen? Oh no, I guess I'll put it in the washing machine. And I literally did a video on that and people went crazy because I said, guess what happened? Nobody yelled at me and called me clumsy and stupid. And then I washed the comforter and then I survived. I mean,
Boom, right? It's
right. And so, but these are things that you don't know are going to maybe trigger you or whatever. Cause I could have been like, oh my gosh, I got it. Oh, I'm so stupid. But I don't self-talk that way anymore.
yeah.
I don't talk that way anymore to myself. I love myself. I'm very kind
Mhm.
to myself. And
Yeah.
so I don't talk that way to myself. I was just like, oh dang it. Now I gotta wash the comforter.
Damn it.
I'm
Fuck.
like, it was more of a like a pain in the butt thing. Like, "Ugh, I gotta
Yeah.
wash." But I didn't for a while. I just sat there watching TV. I'm like, it didn't spill that much. But so these are the things that we have to do because like I went shopping with my son. He said, I want to buy you a picture for your wall in the living room. And so he took me shopping and we got a couple and one of them we took back and no one was angry. I mean, these are you just have to do it. Like you literally push yourself. I had a friend who was sick and she lives across town from me, like 45 minutes away. So I couldn't like drop off soup or anything. It just would have been too time prohibitive. And I said, hey, I'm going to order you Instacart and I'm going to send you a rotisserie chicken. I'm going to send you some soup. And would you like something else? She goes, yeah, I'd like a salad. I said, great. So I'm going to send you a salad. I said, tell me what dressing you want. I'm going to pick it all out right now. And she texted me back like 10 minutes later. She goes, I have no idea. And I said, why? And she goes, because I've never been allowed to choose my own dressing.
Mhm.
So there's two ways we can look at that. Like, oh no, like, but then I have beautiful friends who are healthy who said to me, yay, congratulations, you get to decide. And now you get to start choosing your life. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, that's a good. So I told her, I said, yay, which one do you want? I'm so excited to hear what you're going to choose. And she's like, oh, I guess I could look at it like that.
I love that.
I
That
know.
like a light bulb went off and I went,
I
ah.
know, me too. I was like, yeah, I mean, at first it's kind of annoying. It's like, shut up, like
Yeah.
nobody wants your happiness. But because sometimes you want to be in a pity party, but so many people have said, "Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. You get to choose. You get to walk into a new life. You get to design your new life. You get to
Mm.
choose whatever you want." So that to me was encouraging. Thank God for healthy friends. So those are the kind of friends you need to have around you. Don't have friends around you who are like, oh, you're so stupid. You can't even choose a salad dressing. That they should
Mm,
see it. They should see it as like, oh, yeah, yeah, there's something going on, right?
right,
But
right.
when I started talking about it, I found tons of friends who said I was in an abusive marriage, but no one ever talked about it. And so
No,
that's
yeah,
why I talk, because we don't know that the person next door to us or the person sitting next to us has been in abuse or is in abuse right now. And so that's why I talk about it, so that we know we're not alone in this.
yeah. Well, thank you for talking about it and talking about it too with humor. There's like this, with a
Yes. Oh,
smile, with,
oh, for sure.
because it's not like, okay, well, because you healed from it, but even in
Yeah.
the serious part, like you really do, there's
You
that
have to.
grace. There's a lot of
Yeah.
grace.
Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. I'm not going to force you to laugh about it the minute you walk in,
Yeah.
but
I mean, we can
it,
laugh about it because we're like
yes,
moved on
because
from
we're
it.
removed. Yeah. And that's the thing. This is what healing sounds like, because I know that 22-year-old Laura, when, she married this guy or met this guy, she didn't know any better, right? She didn't know any better. And so I have empathy for her, and I can look at that. I did the best I could with the information I was given. And I stayed as long as I did because he was lying. I trusted him. He was my husband. I
Yeah.
lived off of hope and breadcrumbs. So what else was I going to do? So I don't, people say like, oh my gosh, you stayed so long. And like, what's your point? So what would you have said if I walked out at the first red flag? The first red flag didn't look red. The first red flag was just him saying like, you don't look that great in that. Oh, I'm just kidding. Oh, I just, like the minute they give you a backhanded compliment or something, like red flags don't look red at first. They look like,
Mhm.
that was kind of
Okay.
weird. They don't look red. They're not necessarily hitting you, and
Mhm.
they're not going like, they are not calling you a horrible name. They're slowly chipping away at you, at your
Mhm.
personality, at everything that they say they love about you will be gone by the time you leave.
Mhm.
Everything. Like if they think you're a great artist, that you won't be painting by the end. If they think you're a great
Mhm.
speaker, you'll never be speaking again, because they also can't handle you being quote unquote better than them, whatever that means. They Whatever that means. I mean, they're it's a shame-based disorder. So listen, everything's gonna be a problem. It didn't matter what I did. And if his friends liked me too much, we would come home and he'd say, like, they didn't really like you. They were just saying that. And I would believe him, because why would he lie to me?
Yeah.
Why would he lie? I'd like the answer, but you can't ask a narcissist why. They don't tell you that.
Oh, they're
No,
just gaslight.
that's right. Yep. Because I did try to ask him why about a couple things, and no, it was all more lies on top of the lies. They're not going to really say why they're doing something. So he ended up with this woman that I always thought he was goofing around with behind the scene, goofing around. And when I asked him why you didn't just divorce me, he was like, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know we'd get together. So this is the thing. And I tell women, don't ever ask why, because I'll tell you right now, and don't ever follow them on social media once you're divorced, because I'll tell you right now, you are going to hear things you don't want to hear, because they will say things if they know you're watching, or you want an answer. Here's the answer. Maybe they'll say something like, oh, she is the love of my life. I've never been loved like this. I've never met a woman as great as this person. And so, because they know you're watching, is that what you want to hear? No, that's not what you want to hear. So, because you think they're going to say, oh, well, I don't know why I didn't. I don't know why I did it, or what. I don't know. They're never gonna tell. There's no reason to cheat. There's no reason to lie. There's no reason other than they just want what they want. So don't ask why. And unfortunately, we want that closure, but we don't get it from them.
No, you get it by loving yourself.
Yeah. You'll get the closure from closing the door yourself.
There's something you said. You get to design your new life.
Yes.
That's where you get the closure when you get to that designing your life how you want it, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's how we can move forward when we start to feel stuck is we have to start looking at ourselves as far as like, what do we want to do next? It doesn't mean you have to figure it all out. It doesn't mean you have to start a podcast or anything. It just means like, what do you want to do next? And it might be like picking out salad dressing or choosing a picture for your wall. And so, like, I challenge anyone who's listening and you look at your walls and you go, oh, I'm too scared to pick a color or I'm scared to pick a painting. Go pick it anyway. Just go do it. And if it's not right, it's not right and go take it back. But go do it because the thing is, I think people wait for motivation and I don't know exactly, but I think it's something like that the motivation comes after you start doing it. So like
Mm.
you have to just kind of push it. It's that whole Nike just do it. Like it's really just like you really just have to. Motivation doesn't just appear, which is weird because sometimes you do feel motivated to do things. But they say in the brain, it's just like you just have to do it. You just have to go. So that's what I try to do every day. Like, I don't know if I like this, so let me try it. I don't know if I can do this. I wasn't I was brought up with a dad who wrote, books and poems and everything else. And then also he painted. No one ever said that I could. And so now I've taken a painting class and then I've written books and it's like, oh, because I was taught no one I wasn't taught anything. I wasn't told anything.
Mm.
So that's the other thing. We have a story in our head and we have to do something with it. So I said, I think I'll take a painting class. Let's see if I can paint. What am I going to do with it? Nothing. Not one
Mm.
thing other than it was fun to do it. So just do something. Just go and do something.
Yeah. Oh, you brought so much light to things.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for shining your light for us. As we close, I do have one more question.
Okay.
I mean, you shared so much wisdom here already, but what is that one thing, I guess, even to your little self or to any of
Yeah.
those that are listening, what
Mhm.
is that thing? What is it that
Yeah.
you would tell yourself or tell others?
Yeah. I always think about those kinds of things. And when I think back, like when you say, like, if you were talking to your little self, what would you say? And I always think about that external validation and how
Mhm.
we so long to have that. But I would say that if when you start building your internal validation and understanding that you are the love of your life, everything will fall into place from that because with that comes the way you walk through this world, the way people will treat you, the way they'll respond to you, and the way that things won't bother you the same because you won't be looking for, oh, I hope this person likes me. Yes, we do want that. But when we love ourselves, we walk through this world. And not only that, it will be an overflow that when we love ourselves, we can love others so easily. We give others grace. So just work on that internal validation because with that, it'll change your entire life.
Mm, thank you for that. Such goodness that you shared here.
Oh,
Goody,
thank
goody.
you.
I hope you all enjoyed this conversation. Any last words before we close out here?
Just come find me on all my stuff, and I think you'll put everything in the show notes, won't you, Jennifer?
Absolutely.
Yeah, come
Yes.
find me,
So
come connect with me, and come hang out with me. I'm making fun of the narcissist daily on social media. I
oh my
am.
goodness. I gotta go through it. So yes, everything, if you guys want to connect with Laura, all her information will be in the description below. So feel free to connect with her. Go laugh at her
Yes. Come laugh
and her
along with
making fun
me.
of the narcissist. And beautiful souls, if today's story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that you're not walking this path alone, I invite you to follow and subscribe to Sacred HERstory podcast. And also follow Laura. That's where I'm at podcast as
Yep.
well. And that information will be below as well for you to connect with her. And here we are, Sacred Her. This is where real women share their raw, unfiltered remembering and the sacred, the messy, and the powerful. Until next time, keep choosing yourself, keep walking your sacred path, and keep writing your sacred her story. Her story. This is Sacred Her. That is Sacred, Highly Exalted Rebel. And thank you again, Laura, for being here and being a part of Sacred HERstory podcast and sharing your authenticity, your love, your radiance, and your light.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.